it'll start to move and fold up, and that's because it's moving some ions in the cells in the same way that your muscles move ions to make your muscles fold up.
Is it possible that plants have intelligence? Could they be more like humans than we thought? That scientific question was a great platform for some research collaboration that brings two diversely different disciplines together.
Michael Pollan wrote this book called The Botany of Desire, and it basically is like, oh, apples are smart. Apple trees are smart because they made themselves delicious so that we would eat them and spread them. It comes out of my own PhD research in part, and I look at representations of plants in literature, specifically plant people or plant minds, plant brains. I work in an area called eco-criticism, which is interested in how we represent nature around us. It's a subset of nature writing research.
Pollination is an act of manipulation, so the plants make flowers. From a scientific perspective, we think of the plants as organisms that respond to the world by producing chemicals. We look at the shapes of the molecules, and we look at how those molecules affect our brains. And so we think of them as an organism we're interacting with. When you introduce Sonnet's piece around the language we use, you start to realize that we build in some preconceived assumptions. So for example, if you think of a male and female flower, you think of the male flower as more active and the female flower as more passive because we assigned them a gender in the language we used to describe them.
All My Relations is a way that a lot of Indigenous folk refer to one another, and when they're speaking about all my relations, they are including plants. The students are using what they've learned about modernism and thinking outside the box artistically to think even further outside of arts and engage with science and think about how we represent plants. I hope to see presentations or writing that takes the idea of plants' consciousness or behavior seriously. And there are so many different ways to do that. They could draw a plant as animated, they could interview a plant, they could do a plant sculpture that suggests that a plant is like us. I'm just really looking forward to seeing what they create because I know that they can take it in all kinds of different directions.
To better inform their research, LeBay's students took in a guest lecture by Professor Susan Murch to better understand plant science and apply it to their literary endeavor.
Our initial idea was whether or not a plant recognizes the things around it and if it can dictate literature. So we're going to create some data-less poems that are going to be dictated by the plant. I feel that I've learned a lot personally about just plants in general and what they can recognize and how they do grow. So I think that's been really interesting for me.
I'm really excited about it. It forces creative writing students to go beyond their comfort zone and sort of expand their knowledge base by engaging plants and science into their writing.
Like natural history and poetry split off into scientific disciplines. There was a lot of interest. It's important for creative writing students to understand that an artistic way of questioning the world has value in the same way that a scientific way of questioning the world does.